Work and learn. Meet Light Meet Max සක්‍රිය කර ගැනීමට MySLT app එකට log වෙන්න. Work and learn. Meet Light Meet Max සක්‍රිය කර ගැනීමට MySLT app එකට log වෙන්න.
අපි හෙටත් එන්න. රසට එකක් බොන්නත් එක්කම ලාවුචි.
හරිම සුදුයි.
On First at 9 tonight, this Thursday, the 8th of December 2022. The way forward. Budget 2023 passed in Parliament with a majority of 43 votes. No favoration. Indian External Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar justifies that India provided holistic support to Sri Lanka.
We have given support to the entirety of Sri Lanka. We have not taken a communal approach to giving support.
Smog. Sri Lanka's air pollution doubles due to dust from India. Sooner than later, Sri Lanka can expect the IMF board approval by January 2023, says Governor of the Central Bank.
If we are able to get assurance within this month, then month of January, IMF can approve this program.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9 with Andrew Bernard. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
A very good evening and welcome to AdaDerana 24's English News. Now in your top story for tonight, Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe says Sri Lanka can expect approval for the $2.9 billion International Monetary Fund Rapid Financing Instrument in January next year, as credit assurances from countries including China and India can be obtained this month. Responding to Indivari Amuwata on our current affairs program at Hyde Park on AdaDerana 24, the governor said Sri Lanka should not fear IMF involvement in comparison to the situation in Greece following its own financial crisis. Instead, look to the success in India and South Korea following IMF bailout.
By December, if Sri Lanka is unable to obtain the assurances of creditors, it might take at least until March 2023 to secure this IMF bailout package. Will that take so long?
I have seen one of the media had reported if we miss the December target that we were expecting last month, and then it would be March. I think that is not correct. It all depends on our ability to obtain financing assurances from our bilateral creditors, mainly the Paris Club, India and China. 3 major bilateral creditors that they have given us loans. We have made a very good progress. If you can remember, we had 2 bilateral meetings where we shared all the information with the creditors at that point. Even after that, through our advisors, through the IMF, we have shared a lot of information with them. Now, all the creditors, they have sufficient information for them to determine or decide on what kind of contribution they have to make to restore their sustainability over a long period. So first requirement is for us to get the financing assurance from all the creditors, either collectively or bilaterally, based on their understanding of their expected relief that they're going to give us. Then they tell the IMF that, okay, we are willing to support the Sri Lanka to restore their debt sustainability based on the debt targets that IMF has set up. And once we reach that stage, then IMF will be able to go to the board and approve the program that we have presented. So the timeline is that earlier, obviously, we were making good progress, but there was a little delay with some of the creditors because there are a lot of internal issues. Getting the financial assurance within the month of November. If we were able to get it within the month of November, we were targeting 19th of December for the next IMF board meeting. But we have missed that for some reason. Several partners already indicated their willingness to support Sri Lanka. If you look at the media also, the Paris Club, India and even China have expressed their willingness to support. So we need to get it in a formal way by a statement to the IMF, okay, we all are willing to support. So we are almost there in my view. So once we get that assurance, then IMF need only maximum 2-3 weeks for them to prepare all the board papers and circulate this with the board members and go to the board and get the program approved. For example, if we are able to get this within this month, then month of January, IMF can approve this program by the executive board, and then we can go on that basis. And usually IMF board meets at least 2 or 3 days a week, and 1 week agenda can be 10 items. So we can obviously, if we get the assurances within this month, we should be able to go to the board in January.
But how much is Sri Lanka versed in dealing with such matters?
This is not new thing, but all the other times it was not that complex or complicated. That was because we did not have a debt crisis. This is the first time we are seeking IMF support, not only for balance of payment support in terms of financing support and also overall macro fiscal framework, but also we have to ensure our debt is sustainable. Government sovereign debt is sustainable. That is the additional complication this time. That is why it is taking a little more time than earlier. This is the only new part.
We've seen a former Greek finance minister calling the IMF bailout that was secured by Greece as a Ponzi austerity. How do you respond to this?
You see, it's difficult to compare the Greece situation and Sri Lanka. It's completely two different economic framework management. Greece is a member of the European Union and they have limitations in terms of the exchange rate policy because they don't have independent monetary policy because they are a euro country in terms of the monetary policy. They have to abide by the rules set out by the European Central Bank for monetary policy as well as European Union in terms of fiscal policy. And also they have backup from the European EU countries as well as backup from the IMF. Their backup came from combination of some of the European countries as well as. So because Greece wouldn't have an independent monetary policy, they could not basically adjust themselves by depreciating a currency because they are fixed to the euro. So then only the adjustment that can happen, internal devaluation, what they call. They have to reduce their wages, cut their wages, loss of huge amount of employment. Those are much more painful reforms for the Greece. That is why probably that minister said for a country like Greece, because of their economic structure, it was much more painful experience making that adjustment internally without any adjustment to the external accounts. This is where the problem. But if you want to compare the IMF packages, you compare what happened to India, similar situation in 1991, and what happened in Korea in 1997. So those countries had this similar bailout packages in 1991 with India. They did the right things and they never went back to the IMF since 1999. They are back to a stable path. Even Korea in 1997, even Indonesia came in crisis. Those are the examples that we should compare how IMF package has worked successfully and countries have come out.
Now, the third reading of the appropriation bill for the 2023 fiscal year was passed in the Parliament by 43 majority votes. 123 voted in favour of the 2023 budget, while 80 voted against them. During the debate on the third reading of Budget 2023, President Ranil Wickremesinghe said a Parliamentary Select Committee will be appointed on a resolution by Parliament to look into those who led the economy to bankruptcy with incorrect fiscal policies.
I think we'll all have to get together and think of how this financial sector is to be this thing. We can blame each other. I can say I'm not responsible. But the fact is that we can't have the banks collapsing. So we'll come back to you, public finance and banking. That's why I wanted the Banking Oversight Committee. It's a very serious problem and it will go for some time. And I want the House to be aware of it.
You're raising a very important point. We are talking about all kinds of issues, but we are not really addressing the domestic debt issue. Whether it is the banking sector. So how are we going to ring fence the banking sector and still sort of try to unwind this problem? This is a huge matter, so nobody's talking about it.
Okay, let's once we get on to this. Secondly, I read you, I agree that we must have a new law to regulate the casinos. I think the Singapore law is something to watch and I'd like the House to draft the issues. Maybe public finance can send us a report on regulation of casinos here.
So I appreciate that because originally it was sent without a regulation. There is one thing, we got them to agree to a 30th September deadlines. So we hope they'll keep to it because we were also aware, we are aware of the need for the casinos to come up, but the regulator must come up, sir, by the 30th. There are so many casinos online, sir. None of them are paying any tax. Even as of today, there are a number of online casinos. So we also told the Finance Ministry that they'll have to urgently bring amendment to the existing law so that you somehow register these online casinos because billions of rupees probably are lost because we don't collect a single cent of tax.
No, maybe that's why I said I wanted the Parliament to go into it, come back with a comprehensive one which all can do quickly and we can sort that out.
there has to be some restructuring. හැබැයි ගිය මාසේ 175 වැඩි වුණා විදුලි බිල. දැන් මේ මාසෙත් එහෙම වැඩි වෙනවා නම් මිනිස්සුන්ට දරා ගන්න බෑ.
අපි සහන ක්‍රමය දිහා බලනවා. මම කියන්නේ මේකයි. මන්තුමා මේක කඩා වැටුනොත් අපි කාටවත් ජීවත් වෙන්න බැරි වෙනවා. We have very, very difficult choices. No one here likes to take this choice. Either the economy breaks, the foreign people are going to help us. Our bilateral creditors may not help us. So we are in a really difficult situation. No one would like to who's the politician who would like to raise this electricity by 50%? That's why you gave the job to me and no one else wanted it. So I had to take the blame. But mamai PUCL විශේෂයෙන්ම ඔය කෙටුම් පනත හැදුවේ. ඉතින් මන් දන්නවා ඔකේ තියෙන බලතල. මන් දන්නේ ඇයි ජනතාව නොමග යවන්නේ කියලා මේ සභාපතිතුමා මුණ ගැහෙන්න තියෙනවා. මොකද මෙතුමා කියන බල මේ විදුලි බලය වැඩි කරන්න දෙන්නේ නැහැ කියලා. කොහොමද නම් ආර්ථිකය ගෙනියන්නේ යට ඇති බලයක් නෙමෙයි. I don't think this type of thing can go on. You are the chairman of a public corporation. You must know how you behave. You are not a monkey who dances into organ. So එච්චරයි මම කියන්නේ ආයේ.
මේ වෙනකොට සමහර නිලධාරීන්ලා මේ තීන් වැරදි තීරණ ගත්ත සමහර දේශපාලඥයන් තාම නිදැල්ලේ ඉන්නවා. නිවාඩ් කබ්‍රාල් මැතිතුමා මේ රට නොමග යවුවා. එතුමා කිව්වා ඩොලර් බිලියන 18ක් එනවයි කියලා මාසයකින්. ජනවාරි මාසේ ඩොලර් බිලියන 10ක් එනවා කිව්වා. මේක වැරදි දේවල්. අද වෙනකන් ඒ අයට විරුද්ධ පරීක්ෂණයක් කරලා නැව. ඔබතුමාගෙන් ඉල්ලා සිටිනවා පළමුවෙන්ම රටට විශ්වාසය දෙන්න ජනාධිපති කොමිසමක් පත් කරන්න. ඒ සඳහා පරීක්ෂණයක් තියලා ඒ වැරදිකරුවන්ට අදාළ විදියට දඬුවම් දෙන්න කියලා අපි ඉල්ලා සිටිනවා.
I can appoint, if the House agrees, I can appoint a presidential commission inquiry or otherwise have a select committee, whichever you want, because House also has power to have a select committee. Huh? So you all come on a select committee, we have nothing here. So you all decide on that.
Honorable Dayasri Jayasekara.
I don't think there's anything to hide. Our system had a lot of structural defects which got triggered off by reducing the taxes, and I think my predecessor, the former president, has accepted that. But let's go into it and see what has happened and what the structural defects are, because we must remedy them also.
Following the budget debate, the vote on the third reading of the Appropriation Bill 2023 commenced. Announcing the results, Speaker of Parliament Mahinda Abeyewardena said 123 voted in favour of the budget, while 80 voted against them. Accordingly, the third reading of Budget 2023 was passed in Parliament by a majority of 43 votes.
Now, Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena briefed ambassadors of member countries of the European Union on the steps taken by the government to stabilise the country. The discussion was held at the Temple Trees yesterday. During the discussion, the Premier briefed the ambassadors on the steps taken by the government with regard to establishing economic, social and political stability and the results that followed them. The envoys who took part in the discussion included European Union Ambassador Denny Scheibe, Ambassador of Germany Holger Subert, Ambassador of the Netherlands Bonnie Horbach, Ambassador of France Jean-Francois Panctet, and the Charge d'Affaires of the Embassy of Romania. Secretary to the Prime Minister Andra Disarnaika also attended the meeting. Now, India's External Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar explained to the Indian Parliament yesterday that it did not take a communal approach when providing support to Sri Lanka during its economic crisis, but was rather a holistic approach that helped all communities in the country. He further emphasized that India would be shirking in their responsibility if they did not step forward to help neighbouring Sri Lanka through this severe crisis.
Regarding Sir Vaikoji's two questions. One about our abstention in the UN Human Rights Commission. This has been a long-standing position by India, keeping in mind what not just this government but its predecessor governments have also thought is the most constructive way of addressing and advancing the interests of the Tamil community in Sri Lanka. That continues to be our approach. Regarding the support we have given to Sri Lanka, please, I would request the honourable member to appreciate. We have given support to the entirety of Sri Lanka, which also includes the Tamil community, the Sinhalese community, the other communities. We have not taken a communal approach to giving support. To have a neighbour in this kind of serious economic situation. We would be shirking our responsibilities if we did not step forward at that moment, and that is exactly what we have done.
Welcome back. Now, the National Building Research Organization says air pollution in Sri Lanka has increased by twice the normal levels due to increased dust particles brought into the island from India with the prevailing heavy winds. Air quality levels in Colombo as well as Jaffna and Kilinochchi districts in the northern province have been identified as unsuitable for sensitive groups. In this backdrop, health experts warn the public to take precautionary measures such as wearing masks while outdoors. Over the past few days, fog and misty conditions have been observed in several parts of the island, including Colombo. According to the National Building Research Organization, this phenomena is due to a drop in air quality levels due to the increase of dust particles in the atmosphere. Several cities in India, including Mumbai, Pune and Chennai, are also experiencing bad air quality levels due to mass construction and demolition activities. The NBRO says India's polluted air that has mixed with Sri Lanka's airspace due to windy weather has affected the country's air quality levels, making it unsuitable for sensitive groups.
පවතින තත්ත්වය අනුව අපේ වායු දූෂක ප්‍රමාණය සාමාන්‍ය මට්ටම වගේ දෙගුණයකට වඩා වැඩි වෙලා තියෙනවා මේ වෙලාවේ.
මේ තත්ත්වය ඇත්ත වශයෙන්ම ශ්‍රී ලංකාවට පාලනය කළ හැකි තත්ත්වයක් නෙවෙයි. රටවල් වල දේශ සීමා අභිභවා යන පොලියුෂන් එකක් ජාත්‍යන්තරව පාලනය කළ යුතු තත්ත්වයක්.
According to the real-time air quality index of the US Embassy in Colombo state that air quality in Colombo is unhealthy for sensitive groups. Further, air quality in districts of Jaffna, Vaunia and Kilinochchi, which are located closer to India, also remained unhealthy.
මේ වෙලාවේ මුගක් ප්‍රවසම් වෙන්න වෙනවා. මොකද 2.5ට වඩා අංශු වැඩි වෙනකොට අපේ හෘදයාබාධ වලට ලක් වෙන්න ඉඩ කඩ වැඩි වෙනවා. අංශ භාග වලට වැඩි වෙනවා. ඒ වගේම වෙනත් ශ්වසන රෝගවල ඒවා වැඩි වෙන්න පුළුවන්. ගර්භණී මව්වරු, ලදරුවන්, වැඩිහිටියන් අයට මේ සම්බන්ධයෙන් වැඩිපුර බලපෑමක් ඇති වෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඒක නිසා ඒ අය වැඩියෙන් ප්‍රවසම් වෙන්න ඕන කාලයක් මේ තියෙනවා. ඇත්තටම නම් එළියට යන්න නැතුව ඉන්න තමයි පුළුවන් තරම් බලන්න ඕනේ. ගෙදරම ඉන්න පුළුවන් නම් හොඳයි. ඇදුම රෝගීන්ට මේ තත්ත්වය ඉතා ප්‍රබල ලෙස බලපානවා. සාමාන්‍යයෙන් මේ වගේ තත්ත්ව නිසා මරණීය තත්ත්වයන් පවා ලක්විය හැකි අවස්ථාව ඉඩක් තියෙනවා.
වයස්ගත උදවිය, කුඩා දරුවන්, හෘද වස්තුවේ යම් යම් රෝගී තත්ත්වයන් තියෙනවා නම්, පෙනහළු වල රෝගී තත්ත්වයන් තියෙනවා නම්, ආසාත්මික තත්ත්වයන් තියෙනවා නම්, අන්න ඒ උදවිය අඩුවෙන් නිවෙස් වලින් එළියට බැහිමත් මුඛ පළඳනාවක් පැළඳීම වැදගත් වෙනවා.
However, the National Building Research Organization expects relief from the situation during the day.
මේ තත්ත්වය බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ අද දවස තුල විතරක් පවතී කියලා සුලන් රටාවේ වෙනස් වීමත් සමගම හවස් වෙනකොට මේ තත්ත්වය පහ වෙයි කියලා බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා.
Now, Sri Lanka's stocks continued to gain for the 9th consecutive time today, ending its highest in more than 7 weeks. The market breached the 9,000 psychological mark during the first hour into trade. The all-share price index closed 0.12% higher at 8,891.74, its highest since the 17th of October. The more liquid index S&P SL20 closed 0.31% higher at 2,344.48. The market witnessed a turnover of 2.4 billion rupees, lower than this year's daily average turnover of 3 billion rupees. The market saw a net foreign inflow of 130 million rupees. The total net foreign inflow meanwhile stood at 22 billion rupees so far for this year. Richard Pires in the meantime pushed the index up to close at 10%, higher at 24 rupees and 2 cents. John Keel's holdings gained 1.7% to close at 149 rupees and 3 cents, and Lanka IOC closed 2.9% up at 214 rupees and 6 cents a share. Now let's take a look at how the rupee traded against other major currencies in the world. Now, world stocks and oil prices battled out to pull out a 4-day slide on Thursday as deeply distorted bond curves and choppy currencies underscored the simmering concerns among investors about economic stagnation next year. The Hong Kong's Hang Seng was up more than 3% overnight and kept the yuan near a 3-month high, but it was all much more subdued in Europe. A groggy stock 600, which has recovered more than 15% since October, barely budged all day, with only oil and gas stocks able to make any real headway, as an icy snap of weather and saber rattling by Russia sent natural gas prices up more than 5%. The Wall Street futures were up 0.5%. Wall Street's main index opened higher on Thursday following a recent sell-off, rather sparked by renewed fears that aggressive rate hikes by the US Federal Reserve could tip the world's largest economy into recession. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 98.5 points to 33,695.97 at the open. Benchmark government bond yields also ticked higher after hitting their lowest levels in months in the run-up to a raft of data and major central bank meetings next week, including the US Federal Reserve, the European Central Bank and the Bank of England. And that's all the news we have for this evening. Join us again tomorrow for the very latest news at the very same time. Have a pleasant evening and good night.
For news and information you can trust 24 hours a day, visit AdaDerana.lk.